Greetings during the third week of Advent from my home in Williamsburg. I wanted to take a few minutes to encourage you during this strange time in which we find ourselves trying to figure out how to do Advent and Christmas during a time of pandemic. I found myself reminiscing earlier this afternoon about what I was doing this time last year. At this time last year, I was the bishop-elect of the Diocese of Southern Virginia for about a couple of months at that point. And during the third week of Advent last year, I was in my home in South Bend, Indiana, with all of my belongings packed in boxes and the furniture truck waiting outside to load everything up. There were no Christmas decorations. There were no baked Christmas cookies or anything like that. It was a different sort of preparation for Christmas. But I did spend some time looking at your parishes on the website in Southern Virginia and looking at how you were celebrating Advent and preparing for Christmas. And I remember thinking with so much joy and satisfaction, this time next year, I'll be a part of that. This time next year, I will have been invited to one of the parishes in Southern Virginia to celebrate Christmas Eve and perhaps Christmas Day and all the Sundays in Advent. I would get to see your Christmas decorations, your Advent wreaths. I'd get to hear all of your carefully rehearsed choirs singing carols. And I was so excited about that. And one Christmas with all of my decorations in boxes waiting to go in a moving van didn't really matter that much. Well, this is not quite the Advent or the Christmas that any of us expected this year, and it's certainly not going to pan out as I had anticipated from last year. I am so sorry that once again we had to suspend indoor worship because of the rising number of COVID cases. I am so sorry that on Christmas Eve, most of us will not be able to enjoy candlelit carols, Christmas trees. Many of us have ordered poinsettias in memory or honor of someone to go on the altar, and we won't get to be there to see them. It's not the Christmas that we expected. How can we celebrate the birth of the Christ child during a pandemic when nothing is going as we expected? How can we stay out of our buildings when what we are used to is nicely decorated buildings for Christmas with music, carols, candles, loved ones and friends all around us? And that is not to be this year. I imagine it was somewhat similar for Mary and Joseph and their first Christmas. They were anticipating the birth of their first child, and things had not really gone as they had planned, I guess. They were not counting on a census. They were not counting on the fact that they had to go back to Bethlehem in order to be counted. They were not counting on the fact that Mary might go into labor during that time, or that they would need to find a place for her to give birth. And even if they were counting on that, they were thinking that there would be some room in the inn somewhere. And yet there was not. And the birth of their first child did not go as they expected it to either. So how can we celebrate the birth of the child when things aren't going as we expect? So I think we celebrate it by reminding ourselves and by reminding each other at every chance we get that we are God's beloved children, that He loves us dearly, and that the birth of the child, God with us, will happen whether we are in our church buildings or not. God will find a way to break through with Christmas for us. So let us go with great joy to Bethlehem, and let us learn ways, new ways, to celebrate the birth of the Christ child in our hearts, even during this time of pandemic. From the bottom of my heart, Tom and I wish you a joyous, joyous Christmas. Oh, come, let us adore Him.